Call the Kennewick County Board of Commissioners in session. I ask you all to raise it and give the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Commissioners, you've all received copies of the bills. Any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve.
I will move the bill, pay the
A
bill.
motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second? A second by Commissioner Gardner. I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. You also received copies of the minutes. Any questions or comments or additions?
Move to file.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. And now, our first order of other business is a request to participate in the 3-county township broadband project. And I would like to call upon Connie Small from the EDC. And I guess for everybody's information, we have two experts here on the board. I would like to call them Commissioner Nissen
That'd be Connie
and
and somebody else.
and as well as the EDC. They've been very valuable, and it's been Commissioner Endeck. So please proceed.
Good morning, County Commissioners. Thank you, Chair Berg. I'm Connie Schmaw from Economic Development Commission, serving Kennewick County and the city of Wilmer. And none of us are experts in broadband. It would take years and years and years to understand it all.
Well,
But with that in mind, I did bring a gift for each of you, and it's called What Fiber Broadband Can Do for Your Community. So this is education for everybody about broadband.
Okay. So we can all be experts then. We got a long ways to go, some of us. But it is a major priority.
Thank you. Thanks, Connie. Boy, somebody's been busy. Oh, 2017.
I will get to that book in a minute. I did come here today to give you an update on where the EDCs and Vision 2040 and Kennewick County broadband and broadband development is at today, and to talk about a project we've been talking about for a long, long time, which is enhancing broadband in Kennewick County, especially the rural areas of Kennewick County. But our committee has been meeting for quite a few years. First was just the issues of enhancing telephone services and communication services, and then internet and broadband. In 2017, our committee threw a broadband project together in the north and western central part of Kennewick County. It was a $10 million project, and we received a grant from almost $5 million. And then it failed because not enough people were signing up and giving their $25 according to the provider. And the expenses were high. It was quite a feat. It was quite a lot of energy and time spent by Larry, our administrator, county commissioners, and our committee. We were extremely disappointed. It took us a while to heal, but we're back at it, and we're looking at a project again in Kennewick County. I want to share with you a little bit where we are in Kennewick County, and then I'm going to talk to you why broadband, why fiber, what it will cost, and how do we get there. Currently, the definition for broadband, at the federal level, rural broadband used to be considered speeds of 10 down and 1 up. Our federal government has realized this is not adequate. It's not serving anybody at speeds like that. Our state was much ahead. For years, they said rural broadband is 25 megabytes down and 3 up. Currently, our state won't provide grants for anybody who doesn't have projects that will fulfill the need for 100 down and 20 up in speeds. And they're saying, we're going to change those goals soon. And they're actually saying broadband projects that really count are symmetrical at 100 down and 100 up minimum. And a gigabyte speed is what we really want, and that's fiber. And that can be 1,000 megabytes down, 1,000 megabytes up, and it has to be symmetrical. Our goal here for our EDC Broadband Committee is fiber. We really won't look at anything else, because if we spend money on any other technology right now, we're going to be doing it again in a few years. It just isn't going to meet the mark, and that's what this book is all about for you, to talk about fiber and why, how important that is today. This is what Candioi County looks like right now. The red areas are unserved areas. They have less than 25/3. The purple areas have 25/3, but they do not have 100/20. The green areas have 100/20. Some of them have fiber, some don't. We have a long ways yet to go in Candioi County. We are behind the mark as far as the county and the state of Minnesota. Of course, the state of Minnesota's goal is to have border-to-border broadband, real broadband across the entire state. One thing I do want to tell you is RDOF, Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, recently did an auction, and they asked providers to determine what they could do and for what amount and where they would do it. And LTD Broadband won the auction. They still have to submit their formal application to do the project, but the area they're looking at doing is the blue areas in Candioi County. And what they currently do is wireless internet, but they couldn't have won that auction unless they offered to do fiber internet. So they're changing their technology according to their application and going to be providing fiber in a large portion of the south part of Candioi County. If they do that, the areas that we have left to do and deploy are a lot less. So we're looking at less townships than I thought we were in the beginning to get deployed. However, our northwest part of the county still has a lot of work to be done. The 3-county, which we're hoping can turn into at least 4 township, 3 township moving into 4 township area, is in this northwest part of our county. So we did have evaluated over a year ago the cost. We had a feasibility study. You all helped with that. Thank you very much for the county funds to do that. A feasibility study for 3 townships who were interested in doing a project. They're contiguous townships, Delray, Mamre, and St. John's Township. The cost to do those 3 townships is $3,983,391. And the infrastructure part of that is 79% of the cost, or $3,153,000. In order to fund that, the state of Minnesota, we would have to go for a broadband grant, and the most we can apply for is 50%, or $5 million. Those are the 2 maximums you can do. $5 million maximum, 50% of the project maximum. We would fund that project with service provider. Arvig had told us they would do up to 15% of the project. Arvig is not a cooperative. They're a telephone company, an internet company that is a for-profit business. We included Candioi County as a possible source, gifts from other individuals and residents, businesses in the area. Businesses like Candioi Power Company are all possibilities for a contribution towards the project, and then the townships themselves. What we currently know that unless there's local investment in these projects, it won't go through. Service providers will no longer do 50% of project. They cannot make funds. They cannot make it work at 50% of a project. So we have to bring in local support as well. What that looked like for the Arvig project, a border-to-border grant at 50%. What we now know on a point system is you've got to keep it under 50%. You're going to get many more points at the state level and higher possibility of getting a grant if you keep it under 50%. The service provider at 15% left the townships themselves to fund $1.384 million. At that cost, that would have added $318 to the taxes for our township citizens over 10 years, or $3,183 for each one to pay. What happened next is we went out to the townships, we provided education, we helped the township supervisors to do an assessment of their residents to see if they were willing to pay that amount to bring internet into their areas. A year ago, we did that education, we did that assessment, we did the polling. Mamre Township and St. John's Township came back with their polling. St. John's said, no, we won't do it unless there's more funding involved in it and less amount for each resident to have to pay themselves. That was too much to add on to their property taxes. Delray Township were about to do their education and their polling when the COVID hit bad and we could no longer get together as a group. We still weren't into doing Zoom meetings and education, so it kind of stopped the process, especially since St. John said no. Memory said yes, but they said a determination that they had to have 75% of the people in the township vote, and it didn't meet the 75%. It was close, but didn't meet it. And so they said, no, we'll look at this again at another time when we know more people will respond. Also, what's happened since then is we did a survey of our people in the entire county and asked what the broadband is like. Are they satisfied? What needs is it not currently filling? And we did that while COVID was in process. What we found out during that is it was not meeting the needs. People were having to go to work even though they shouldn't have, just to give the internet to their children to use for their schoolwork. We have all kinds of data. I shared that data a while ago with you, but at any time I could bring that back if you wanted to. So our survey and our study, our feasibility study, the study that we did for CARES money brings us into a new position to bring this project back to the 3 townships. And we're hoping that with the study that we did with the CARES funds, we can bring at least another township in, so maybe 4 townships. What else happened is we met with Federated, who was our priority company to do this project for us anyway. They're a co-op. They can take longer to fund a project than a for-profit business can. They have just recently been freed up to add more territory to their fiber broadband network, and they are interested in Candiota County, moving into our county, especially on the west side and the north part of our county, to bring fiber in. That was a huge plus, a huge accomplishment we made, is to get Federated interested in what we're doing. Federated came in and said they would do 25% of the cost of this project instead of 15%. Now we're starting to bring the cost down per the individual resident. If we applied for a border grant and asked for 45% instead of 50%, we have a better chance of getting a broadband grant. My hope is that Candiota County would consider doing $25,000 per township as we move forward. And by setting it per township, we have set a precedence and we know what we can do for the future as well as the present. If you were to do that, whether it's a 3 township project or 4 township project, that money would not have to be dispersed until next year. So it could be in next year's budget, not this year's budget. The townships themselves would have to invest $1.120 million. The cost then comes down from over $3,000 per month for 10 years, or per year for 10 years, to $2,557. This is what they're looking for, a cost that they can afford and a cost less than what we proposed the first time. In order to pull this project together and go back to the townships, we have to tell them we found other funding. They already know that the company, Federated, is willing to do 25%. That's a start. We need to submit a broadband grant in August or early September. Our awards are usually announced in November or to the end of January. The caveat in that is the legislator still has to pass funds for border grants. When they do that, if they do that, we need to be ready with a shovel-ready project that is with a funding plan that works for everybody. So that's what I'm here for today, to ask you to start determining whether the county can do that. They can be a participant in funding a project for the townships today and in the future. When I know exactly which townships will be in there, and whether it's 3 or 4, I will come back with a resolution and ask you to support that resolution at $25,000 per township that we put in our projects. Any questions?
Well, we're talking about my district, and so I certainly would support, but I know if we ask for $25,000 per township, that other townships might chime in and say, well, where's our $25,000? It's just like, so I see that looming a little bit. But if we're going to help those people that have little or no internet access, where it's really a infrastructure issue, and the more that the major providers pick up the pockets of larger populations, such as where you just moved to, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be completely left out. So I think it's critical that we consider participating as a county, even though it adds up, and if we were to give everybody in the county $25,000 is $600,000. So I did the math quick. Of course, Larry can find money anywhere.
Mr. Chair, I think by putting a dollar amount on the townships, it becomes much more doable. I believe if the board is interested in this at that rate, we could make that work. Difference with this and CTC, we were going to help pony up dollars on those funds to kick the can down the road, to get it going, get started. They still backed up. But I think the formula that's being offered to you today is a very doable process. Not every township will need this. A lot of townships are served. So you're looking at District 5 area in your district, those two districts are probably the most underserved of all the other areas. So the most rural areas will benefit the most. I just think this is the first time I've seen this all in place. I'm really excited about having a formula like this. I think we could make this work.
Go ahead, Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the other thing that has changed, Larry already mentioned, and Connie too. Connie, could you put that map back up, please, that was on one of your first slides? Unless you've already,
I don't know
that's
if I
fine.
can figure out how to do that again.
Is we have a much lower cost now than what we were looking at prior. The other thing that has changed a lot is prior to COVID, there was reluctance. A lot of the people out in the more rural areas, they may be elderly people who, if they can download their email, they think they're being served. Raleigh always uses the phrase, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And that's really true. But since COVID took place, and even grandparents are affected by this because they often share in the care of their children while parents are working, and so the kids are trying to work from home, and they realize that they can't meet the needs of their internet service for those kids' education. So I think that's changed a lot of attitudes. And then finally, from an economic development perspective, we're going to be really held back if it's estimated, and these are anecdotal numbers, but it's estimated that nearly 20% of the workforce will continue to work from home even when it's safe to go back into the workplace. And if we don't have adequate broadband services, internet services, so that people can work from home, they're going to take jobs where they can. And so I think it really behooves us to continue to work towards this end. And one of our challenges, and I think it's our challenge to meet, is by necessity, the current providers must go into areas where they have enough density to pay for their investment. So they're always interested in the first mile out from a city. We have to be interested in getting to the last mile because they're not going to do it without other resources other than just private enterprise. I asked Connie to put that map up.
Yeah.
So I think the blue on our left is Swift County. Earlier, there was a map up that showed there you go. That map right there. If you look in the upper left corner of that map and see that line of blue there, so Swift County is all covered. And that's where Federated would move into and come into that northwestern portion of Kansas County. So.
Can I add to
Any
that?
other questions or comments?
Just,
Commissioner Nissen.
Swift County funded part of that project. That's why they're all blue over there. And so every home in Swift County has got access to fiber.
And I might add, the reason they got coverage is because they had not been cherry-picked. Where Kansas County had been so severely cherry-picked where the bigger towns, Wilmer, New London, Spicer, even Pennock, some of those, the providers had, existing providers had gone into those towns, took the lowest hanging fruit, and if I use cherry and fruit, that's not mixing my metaphors, just. And then they left town, so now the profitability has gone out of it, where Swift County didn't have that issue.
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My district is entirely within the city of Wilmer. And yet, we all recognize the need to get broadband out to the rural areas. As Commissioner Imbeck noted, it's a matter of educational disparities, economic development. The viability of our rural areas is literally at stake here. And I don't believe that we, as a board, can afford to be bashful about supporting financially the efforts to bring broadband to all of these underserved areas.
Thank you. Any other,
I just have
Commissioner
one
Anderson,
comment.
please proceed.
Yeah, talking to people in my area, there were a couple instances where they said that businesses actually skipped Candioi County because we didn't have the broadband service that we need. So I think it's important that we do this. My other question would be, why was it LTD didn't offer to provide service to the northwestern portion of the county?
Well, talk about cherry picking. The low-hanging fruit's been done.
Okay.
Now they're going to the next area of fruit and what's possible for them to do. I really think their goals are really large the way it is.
Okay.
I'm hoping they'll go through, do the formal application, and do what they say they're going to do. It would be a tremendous help to Candioi County to have fiber in those areas. This project can take them up to 10 years. Do we want to wait, or do we want to start building out the northwest corner and meet them partway?
I think I'm speaking for all of us when I say two of our biggest priorities are dealing with COVID, all the different aspects of it and the vaccination, but also broadband. And this is something we've been struggling for so long. And we can't go by this year now without some step forward instead of just spinning our wheels. And it's not because the board hasn't been trying to do something. They really have. And that's for I call our experts. They've worked so hard in this whole area as well as the EDC. And I think you have the board support to move ahead. I think, how do we do it? How can we make it fit in everybody's budget? I had a quick question. So we're identifying 3 or 4 possible county townships at this point. So how far do we have to go percentage-wise? We have this, once we get those, what percent do we have left to deal with? Just to have a big picture of the whole thing. If you could pull that off the top of your head, or you probably had it there and I missed it.
I'd have to come back to that. But again, LTD makes a difference. If they do their project, it eliminates a lot of the townships in the lower part of the county. Some of that has also been done recently by Federated. So some little things are happening as we go. Diamond Lake area was done, Big Candio High Lake area was done fiber by Federated.
Okay.
What they're doing is creating little loopholes of people that aren't served even in those townships, and that's detrimental. I want to get these northwest part of the county before they start doing little splats here and there and leaving the other people out.
Okay.
So it's to our advantage to do that. I can come back next time and let you know where we are, how many townships are left.
It's not, I just wanted a big picture of that is all. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Anderson?
No, I just think it's very important. I've also talked to people that in my area where they just had a hot spot. They were using their phone, and since March, they said this was like last September already. They said they already burnt up one phone. So it's expensive if you don't have adequate Wi-Fi in your area.
And their fees too.
Yeah.
One more thing,
Yes, please.
talk to your legislators. We need that state grant.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
if I may,
proceed,
and
please.
That's really a good point, and there's been some reluctance by some legislators not to kind of push forward broadband because they say there's new technology coming down the road. There's always new technology coming down the road, and it might absolve some of those issues that we have. If we'd be doing that, we'd still be farming with horses because when the steel wheel came in and when the steam engine came in and the internal combustion engine came in, we just said, no, there's new technology coming around, so let's wait till that new technology comes along. And so we have to do the same thing with broadband.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the focus is on fiber because that new technology comes in, it'll still be probably working through fiber or a big chance of it.
And that is true, yeah.
That's very
The
good.
5G is coming in, it's coming into metro areas that already have fiber, because they have to have the fiber in order to do the 5G.
And they can upgrade with speeds by just putting a different end on these.
They're talking five gigabytes instead of the 1 gigabyte that we want to concentrate on getting. So someday we can get to 5 gigabytes.
And then we get done with all the Candy County, we can come back to the city of Wilmer, and we get fiber here, maybe. No, this is, any other questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you very much for the update, and I think you're going to leave your feeling, and then when you talk to the townships, that the board is here, we're going to problem solve this with them, and we want them to step up to the plate as well, and we know they will. So
Okay.
thank you.
I'll be back.
You bet.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Bid opening, okay.
We have to just wait a few seconds here
Oh,
until.
Mel's ready, I think, right?
No, he's not. Oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay. All right. He
was over
disappeared. All right. I'd like to call now on the Public Works Director, Mel Odens, and you have a bid opening for us. And if I understand this correctly, we'll read the bids off, and then at the next board meeting, after you get a chance to look at those bids, then we'll address the motion to who we pick.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Members of the board, we've got the water filter plant rehabilitation project bidding today. Bids were to be received at the Public Works facility and opened at County Board after 10:15 this morning. With that, just quickly, the project is going to, we replaced one of the filters at the water treatment plant last year, and we found that we had another one that needed to be replaced, and the other two beyond that were in need of repair as well. And we have 4 filters, and so we were able to fund this with excess bond money from our lift station project. So that's where we're at, and so we've got 5 bids received, and I'll open and see how this goes.
Proceed.
So what I'm going to be reading is, I'll be reading the base bid and the ad items. I will not be acknowledging the bid bond, nor will I be acknowledging the addendums received, because that'll be part of the process that we go through when we check it. So I'll do this in alphabetical order. The first bid is from Eagle Construction Company out of Little Falls, Minnesota. And the base bid is $222,000 even, 222,000.00. The ad item number 1 is $107,000 even, 107,000.00. Ad item number 2 is $58,500 and no cents, 58,500.00. And ad item number 3 is $28,800 and no cents, 28,800.00. That completes the bid for Eagle Lake. The next one is KHC Construction out of Marshall, Minnesota.
Good morning, Commissioners. Morning, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, all right, KHC's base bid is $141,000.00, so 141,000.00. The ad item number 2 is $69,000 even, 69,000.00. Ad item number 2 is $50,000 even, 50,000. And ad item number 3 is 23,000 even, 23,000. The next one is Magni Construction out of Chanhassen. Their base bid is $173,500, 173,500.00. Ad item number 1 is $80,900, 80900. Ad item number 2 is $35,700, 35700. Ad item number 3 is $19,300, 19300. Number 4 is Minnesota Mechanical out of Waite Park. Their base bid is $172,600, 172,600. Ad item number 1 is $71,000 even, 71000. Ad item number 2 is $40,650, 40650. Ad item number 3 is $18,450, 18450. And our last bid is Rice Lake out of Deerwood, Minnesota. Their base bid is $159,900, 159,900. Ad item number 1 is $69,900, 69900. Ad item number 2 is $36,900, 36900. And item number 3 is $17,900, 17900. So that completes the bid opening for the water filter. And Mr. Chair, we will review the bids and come back to the first meeting in February with our recommendation.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Odens, and also I thank all the people that bid on this. Looks like we have quite a range of bids, and that's really a positive thing. So thank you.
Yep.
And we'll see you next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'd like to move on to our CARES coordinator, Gene Spalding. I appreciate your enthusiasm as you.
Very much. I was, I will tell you that the streaming isn't exactly spot on when you're watching it live, so
No,
I
I suppose
apologize
not.
for that. But thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Just want to bring to you, at the last board meeting, as you remember, we brought to you a proposal for a new program. It is, the county received funding from the state of Minnesota from the County Relief Program. And the intent of the funding from the state legislature was to assist businesses within the state who were impacted again through the executive orders that for limitations and shutdowns of businesses. And so they had 3 different tiers that at the state level. The first level was the Department of Revenue was directly assisting businesses. Second level was DEED, or Department of Employment and Economic Development, would be assisting businesses. And then the third was they were allocating the funding to the counties for the counties to directly assist businesses. And so that's what we're bringing forward today for you today. The application that was approved, again, had 3 tiers. And we felt that that was important because it prioritized based on what the intent of the legislation was in providing that assistance to those that they felt were most directly impacted or impacted the most. We totally understand that there are businesses that are still being severely impacted in all aspects and industry sectors. However, again, that funding, we were reminded, was because those businesses by executive order had been shut down and impacted. And so we developed the program with that in mind so that they would get the first priority and then work downward. So today we have 10 businesses that fall into that Tier 1 programming. They are they're represented by restaurants. At this point, it would be restaurants and fitness centers that are all 10 of those business sectors are included into. The amount of the request that we're asking for is $173,500. And the average loss that these 10 businesses have experienced in comparison of fourth quarter 2019 to fourth quarter 2020 has been 46.8% on average. Some of those is as high as 77%, and the lowest is 22%, which 20% is the minimum that we've allowed for the program. We will be looking and reviewing additional applications tomorrow. We review them every week along with the EDC's Finance Committee, and we'll be bringing more recommendations then to the February 2nd meeting. That will be for the next 2 weeks of businesses that are being considered. No, I didn't have these. Okay, so we have an additional 5, including the 10 that were on initially, and that would be an additional $91,500. So those were 2 separate, they were all considered in the Tier 1, but they were the 5 additional would be all in the hotel sector. So we would be,
265, I guess.
thank you, I was just doing math with you. So we total of $265,000 for 15 of those businesses in Sector 1.
Okay.
I
Question?
will make a motion that we fund those suggested items. And
I have a motion by Commissioner Nissen. Do I have a second?
I second that.
A second by Commissioner Anderson. Any other further questions, discussion? Commissioner Emdek.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So there's the Tier 1, and I'm not sure I'm understanding it correctly, but I thought I understood it that for Tier 2 and Tier 3, once the Tier 1 applications are exhausted and we see what's left available, then Tier 2 can apply, and then so forth, so on.
Tier 2 is somewhat going to be going on at the same time and parallel to Tier 1, and because they're closely related. So Tier 2 is the businesses that were funded some in Department of Revenue. For example, it would be an owner who had 5 locations for a business, all operating under one employee or EIN number. And so they, instead of receiving, for example, if those 5 businesses all would have been applicable under each individual EIN, they would have received $25,000 apiece under the Department of Revenue's funding parameters. They instead, because they were only listed as one, they might have received $35,000. So what Tier 2 is intended to do as a part of that is to look at that particular business and try to see in Candioi County if that business was in Candioi County, what they should have received had they been in, and if only one of those businesses was in Candioi County, what would be Candioi County's percentage of that difference in what they likely would have received, just trying to equalize what other businesses were receiving. So that kind of is going hand in hand with Tier 1 because it is still a Tier 1 business. It's just that they didn't receive funding similar to other Tier 1 businesses. And then the second sector in Tier 2 is the event centers. And again, they kind of go hand in hand with the hotel and the restaurant sector. And so they're being reviewed at kind of simultaneously. So it's Tier 3 is really when it kind of opens up to all industry sectors and services and, that would be additionally impacted.
So is there because these applications have a end date, correct?
Yes.
And so is there an end date? I'll call it a sub-end date for Tier 1 so that you will know if you have something to work with for those last.
Because that sector is pretty limited, we have direct contact information. We have the licensed restaurants and hotels and everything. We were able to do phone calls and direct impact with applications. And so we feel that they have gotten the information. And so that is going to go really pretty quickly. Those applications should be coming in and we should be seeing those if they haven't gotten them in by a certain time. And we're really probably going to be looking at opening up for Tier 3 as soon as we feel pretty comfortable that Tier 1 has had a sufficient time. And so that probably the next week we're going to be opening it for Tier 3 probably.
Yeah, because, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Please continue.
we scrambled at the end of the last program, and we got it done. I think we got it done well, but I don't think we need that. You guys don't need that stress at the very end trying to get everything done.
Well, it made it easier because we could do so much direct outreach.
And it's a smaller group that we're.
It's a smaller group, and so, we felt pretty comfortable that we can get the message out there. It's not like we have to talk to the broad base. But then we do have to get some information out to those that would be allowable to, and some of them are already putting in applications, and that's fine. They certainly are welcome to do that. It's just that they wouldn't be reviewed until we've looked at the Tier 1 and 2 first.
Okay.
Good question, thank you.
Anything else on this? Otherwise, okay, we got a motion and a second. I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Jean, for all your work on this, and Mr. Kleindahl, and as well as our partnership with the EDC to help make this happen. This is a great deal, and we're got up and running, and with maybe bumps here and there, but we got it going as usual, and doing a good job of it. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll move on to Ms. Lipper, Director of Health and Human Services, and we're going to talk again about tobacco ordinance.
Yes, good morning. Thank
Good
you
morning again.
So I'm here before you today to request a public hearing on revisions to the Kandiyohi County Tobacco Ordinance, Tobacco Licensing Ordinance, which is number 28. The proposed date and time for the hearing would be February 2nd, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. And I did check with Mr. Kleindahl, and that time slot was available on February 2nd.
Okay. Any questions or comments? I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
So move.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner, and the chair will second this. Okay. Any other questions? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And after we get the podium all cleaned up and sterilized, and we will call upon zoning administrator Eric Van Dyken to discuss some planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Eric Van Dyken, County Zoning Administrator, here with a single action item request from the Planning Commission meeting of January 11th. At that meeting, there was a public hearing held for the request of Matt Schiller to operate a cabinet manufacturing or construction business in an existing building located in Dovery Township, Section 13. You may know this building is a building that historically housed Long Lake Antiques. It's near the northeast corner of South Long Lake in Candioi County here. And the hearing was held. Recommendation comes from the Planning Commission to grant the request with 3 attached conditions relating to storage of materials, parking, and dust collection, and also with attached findings.
Okay. Any questions, comments from anybody?
Just, I'm wondering if Mr. Larson ever got a chance to tour the existing facility, because that was in part of the discussion items I read on the report, or the,
I had a significant conversation with Mr. Larson the day after. He had not at that time sought out that opportunity, but we had a very productive conversation.
well, the other thing is this Schiller, the son of Larry Schiller, who has done unbelievably great cabinet work all over the state of Minnesota, big companies, well, Elmquist, I guess, all of their cabinets at their new store was done by Larry Schiller, maybe.
I believe that was his uncle,
Was it
if I
uncle?
recall correctly. That was his uncle. So he's taking over that business. This business currently is in the county. It's relocating. It is in the Touchstone Business Center across from Candy Power Co-op is where they're currently operating. Their lease ran out there, and they're looking for a new site.
Mr. Chair, I would move in the recommendation from the planning committee with the findings and what else do I need to say? Conditions.
A motion by Commissioner Emdike to approve this. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further discussions or questions? I have just a couple of questions, just to be clear, and for the public too. It's my understanding the township preferred, wanted to turn this down. Am I correct?
The township did make a recommendation to deny. I had a nice conversation with Mr. Larson about that later as to what the standards are and really what a request like that means. And I think that will lead to perhaps a different type of recommendation in the future that more talks about concerns as opposed to a up or down vote. When you look at the findings, it's conditional use permits in general. The standard is fairly high for denial. And of course, we want to be careful that we're making our decisions in such a way that it's protective of the citizens, but also protective of the legal interests of the county, not to welcome lawsuits, et cetera. So,
Yes, and what I read, it was not necessarily a rezoning, but renaming.
yeah, so conditional use permits allow a use to occur in the zone without changing that zone. It just allows them with a little greater scrutiny to do things like you've just done now, approve it with conditions that mitigate any potential concerns about land use conflicts.
Okay. And one neighbor had a concern. Was that the neighbor who lived across the street then from the place? Do you know?
There were several neighbors. I know the neighbor from across the street testified. There was a neighbor to the north that testified, and those are the two neighbors. So the directly to the north and directly to the west across the road.
I went on Google Maps and it looked like it was approximately 200 feet, that one neighbor to the business. On the other hand, it's zoned this way, and I think what you're saying as well, with these conditions, that this meets all legal criteria to be able to move forward.
That's correct. The Planning Commission did find, so if you look at under the findings,
Yep.
one of the ones that comes into play potentially a lot of times with a proposal like this is finding number 1. That has to do with use and enjoyment of a property and with property valuation. Though that's often the finding on which these types of considerations really hinge, because there could be in certain circumstances. So if you can imagine someone came in and proposed, like we have along Highway 71 in a commercial zone, we have Three Finger Sawmill, that might be viewed entirely differently about how it might impact and would bear on that finding, number one, significantly different compared to a cabinet shop with all its equipment indoors, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Were those neighbors, did they get the tour of the other facility? It seems to me I remember something about,
Mr. Muldrow, the neighbor to the west, did contact the project proponent and did have an opportunity to tour his facilities, and his testimony reflected that he was quite comfortable with any of his concerns being able to be alleviated,
okay, that was the only one, though, that toured the,
to my knowledge.
No more questions? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to take a short recess until 11 o'clock when the next presenters are going to be here.
Fall of 2017.
Oh, he's out there.
Ray, I think we're going to move the agenda around a little bit. I think I'll go next, and then we'll have Andy present when he gets here. So are you about ready?
I am ready. You guys ready? We're ready.
Ready.
Ray? Ready. 3, 2, 1.
I hereby call a meeting back in order, and I'd like to proceed calling on Administrator Kleindahl with several updates and appointments concerns and calendar information.
Yeah, those who are watching on TV, we're going to adjust the agenda a little bit. Our next presenter is a little delayed due to the road conditions. So the first thing I'd like to bring up, Mr. Chair, we have our annual request from the Spicer Commercial Club for to use our county park for the ice castle. And this permit, they do have the necessary insurances that the board requires, and so I would ask that the board authorize this here permit for them to have the winter.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Commissioner Emdack. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Nissen. Any discussion or questions? If not, I'll call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Mr. Chair, from our last reorganizational meeting, I was given a couple appointments for committees. One is from Commissioner Anderson. He would like to nominate Ryan Erickson to serve on the Board of Adjustments. Ryan is from rural Blomquist, and I don't know if Mr. Anderson has anything else he would like to add on Mr. Erickson.
I just think he would be a good addition for that, so
Okay.
that's all.
So we need a motion for that.
Individually, we can't take them both together?
You can if you want, if that's what you choose. The
that
second
okay?
one,
Okay,
what do you,
sure. Let's take them both together, and
okay, the second one.
unless there's a request after we hear about those. Okay.
The second appointment is from Commissioner Gardner. Commissioner Gardner would like to nominate Ben Larson of Wilmer to be a member of the Board of Adjustments. And so Ben is from Wilmer. I don't know if Mr. Gardner have anything you want to add.
Okay. No questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve Mr. Erickson and Mr. Larson to the Board of Adjustments.
I make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Gardner. Okay, one more
I
question?
have
A question,
Does
Commissioner
that
Nissen.
Board of Adjustment meet on a regular basis, or they'd hardly ever meet by a crowd?
That is correct. I believe last year they might have met one time,
I think it was two, wasn't it? They said.
maybe one or two times. It doesn't, they don't, it's not a regular meeting, it's just when it's needed.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
Understand.
What I heard too is that because of COVID, it really was a tough year last year, but on the average, maybe about 6 times a year, even though they can do it monthly. Okay. I'll call a question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
And then, Mr. Chair, each year we need to set the Board of Equalization. And what, the process starts at the local units of government, maybe the local cities or local townships. They have you appeal there first, and then you come to the county. The date I would like to recommend to the county board would be June 15th, 2021, at 6 PM. The Board of Equalization hearing will be here in this boardroom.
Questions? How's that date work for everybody?
Well,
It's a regular board day, so that's why,
Just be that evening, right?
Yep.
that'll be, I think that's fine.
Fine over here, gentlemen? Okay. Motion for that?
yes, we
Okay.
need to set.
I'll accept a motion of setting June 15th at 6 PM for the Board of Equalization meeting. A motion by Commissioner Nissen?
Yep.
And a second by the chair. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously.
Mr. Chair, I received an email from the SWCD. We generally have a meeting with them at the end of each year to get an update regarding the soil and water projects that were taking place in Kansas County. Because of COVID, this that we have now, and we didn't have that meeting this past year, they're asking that we have a virtual meeting that they, with all the commissioners, that they could show when their projects, what projects they are working on, kind of showing you what they have done. And so, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask for some suggestions about dates. We could do this after the next board meeting if you wanted. We could go into the noon hour, or we could have it at any time, that would work for you. Trying to find your schedules and their schedules, it will be a bit of a challenge. So if you could give me 2 dates, then I would provide them with a date and an option date.
When
So
is their regular meeting date?
I'm not sure, it doesn't say on here when their regular meeting is.
I'm just curious.
Does anybody know?
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question.
Proceed, Commissioner Emdick.
Larry, isn't our first meeting of the month usually the fuller agenda, or is that just my imagination? Seems like it.
It would be, we wouldn't do it during a regular board meeting, we'd have to do it during the noon hour, or we could come back after that meeting, give you time to drive home, you could do your Zoom from home if you wanted to.
And to that end, I wonder if we aren't better off with the third Tuesday of the month.
The third Tuesday of the month after the board meeting, we have CVB.
Oh, okay.
Have people that
Got it.
have that meeting. So if you wanted to do it on a board day, that would be a bit of a challenge on the second one. The first one might be better, or we can do it first thing in the morning sometime too. I do know the new commissioners have new commissioner school coming up, so their schedules is going to be kind of full for the next few days. And so we want to take that into account if you want to have it anytime soon.
I guess as far as I'm concerned, that first meeting in February 2nd would work. If it works for them, I'd throw that date out as one,
Okay,
Yeah.
if it works for everybody else.
that's fine.
Over that noon hour, as you suggested.
Yeah,
Should we give it 1:30 to give time to drive home?
yeah, that's fine.
Would you rather 1:30?
Either way, I could just hang out here in the back room or something, do a Zoom.
Well, you said 1:30 for a suggestion?
Yeah.
How about 1?
1?
Shorten it up a
We
little
do
bit.
one.
It works for me.
I didn't know if Commissioner Anderson had to drive.
I think I could do it. I'll just hang out in the back, because that works fine. Then I have less distraction.
Okay, so the first one would be February 2nd at 1 PM. And I'll have to let them know that this is open to the public. And so the public, anybody who'd want from the public to be involved, they would have to provide that link. And then a second choice?
The following month?
Okay.
Same thing then?
March?
Yeah, that'd be March 2nd as
What's the
well.
date on, is
Second.
it March 2nd?
Yep, 2
Okay, we-
seconds in a row.
Okay, March 2nd? Same time?
Yep.
Okay, I'll let them know that. And I'll have them set that up.
All right. Okay,
Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Sure, I have a
Oh,
question
can
for
I-
Larry before he leaves.
please proceed.
I had I reached out to somebody from the library board, Pioneer Land Library,
Yes,
whose term is up, and she was gonna make a recommendation, but I'm not sure, I think she made the recommendation to the Pioneer Board.
okay, should she, are
Will
you,
that come back?
is it your appointee?
Yes.
Then she would need to let you know and you'd bring it to here.
Okay. I didn't know if somebody had forwarded.
I have not, I've got Commissioner Anderson's and Commissioner Gardner's, I did not receive any other appointments.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Kleindahl. Now I'd like to call upon our Facility Maintenance Director, Andy Thorson. And would you introduce our guest? I would try it, Brian. I'm not sure I can know how to pronounce your name. Merle. Oh, it is Merle. Oh, simpler than I thought. Thank you. Please proceed.
Good morning, Board.
Good morning.
Mr. Commissioner and new members of the Board. Introduce myself. I'm Andrew Thorson, Facilities Maintenance Director for the county. Here to continue the conversation on the Law Enforcement Center roof. The building is 20 years old now. Back in 2019, we started doing some legwork on checking and getting some estimating done on what this project would entail and cost. That continued into 2020. I reached out to some architects, engineers. This roof is not a simple roof. Usually, we are able to handle most our roofing projects in-house. This project would be a little more extensive and need to go through the State Board of Review. So that's why it's a little bit beyond myself doing. During this time last year, I was approached by Brian Merle from the Garland Company and visited with him. And he did a roof inspection report, which I believe was digitally sent to everybody last week, at the end of last week, in your packets. I do not know if you had a chance to review that or not. There's some pretty good pictures in there that show the condition of the roof, which is not well. So I feel now is the time to move forward with this project. We did look at different ways to do it, where we would piecemeal it, roof, over 4 years. The architectural firm, they would charge us $45,000 for the original bid letting. And then every other year on top of that, they were going to charge us another $10,000 every year. So we were talking, $75,000.
Just for,
That's just for engineering. So in discussing this with Mr. Merrill, looked at his product, did a lot of calling around to his references. I do know some of the facilities directors that have used the Garland companies in the past and currently, and they were really pleased with their product. And with that said, I will bring up Ms. Morale to tell you all about it.
Is there a way to hook this in for?
yes.
So you got a flash drive?
I do, yeah, whatever, I can hook it into anything.
Okay.
So, good morning, and thank you guys for adjusting.
Good morning.
I apologize
Yes.
for
No.
tardiness. Your snowplow teams are out there, they're doing a great
Okay.
job, I can assure you of that. So,
Mr. Merle,
Meeker County, though, that you were driving in.
I think that, yeah. Meeker County, they weren't out there, the roads were the problem.
if it's easier for you to speak, you do have permission to remove your mask, so.
Thank you, thank you. Sure.
Here's the flash drive.
Oh, is there just an HDMI I can connect this to? That might be
Oh.
easier if I can pull that out.
Okay,
Clary, don't you know that stuff?
yeah.
My apologies, I wasn't prepared for that.
There we go.
Yeah, I apologize. The Macs and these computers, they don't like to work with one another. Perfect, thank you. Nope, maybe that's not the right connection. Here it is. Oh,
Oh, wrong one.
I'm placing this down, I'm not stealing it, I'm not taking this away from the county.
Well, yeah, put that on the bill too.
Yeah, well, you can deduct that from the project if you need to. So am I,
Ah, there you
All right,
arrive.
excellent.
Fantastic. All right, proceed.
looks like us, huh?
Yep.
Well, if I can just get that to. Oh, this is always fun.
Who was up there?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, while this is figuring itself out, if it ever does.
There we go.
Here.
Yep.
Oh, come on, stay with us. So, correct, and thank you for your time again this morning. What Andy was describing is we work with extensive amount of counties throughout the state and a lot of school districts. I have worked with Meeker County, so I hopefully that's not on record, me going against them, but we did a project for them about 2 years ago. We actually, their facility in downtown. What Garland is and who we are is we are a full-service manufacturer. So a lot of the times when these roofing projects go out for bid, or if there are architects or consultants involved, they are working directly with a manufacturer who is presenting information based on just their design, or they're getting here we go. Oh, it's gone. Often working with a consultant or an architect who's putting together plans to work on these roofs. What that does is it adds a lot of different parties into that project. And with the amount of different parties getting involved in that, become a lot more fees and a lot more finger pointing if things go wrong. So our model as a company is working directly with our clients to assist with that design, to assist with the engineering, and provide those products to ensure that when we're doing something, we're doing it properly. We are that single source product for the project so that if there is a leak, it does not go to the architect for a design or consultant who would then go around and say, hey, this is something we need to change. So it puts more accountability on Garland, and it puts more accountability on us to ensure that we are doing this properly. When we do a project, we're very selective. You can't actually work with Garland or purchase our products unless you're working directly with us. We assist with the design process. We help with the specifications. Those then become adopted by the county if they were to do that. And then really we're assisting with the whole bid letting process. So we are not trying to what we're focused on is making sure that we are working singularly on that project. So, and I really wish I could show you guys this is typically where I'd go into the pictures to show where the benefits of this.
If you can put it on here, we'll tip it up like this and I'll show it on the overhead.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise, we have
I
it on our iPads, and
Well,
so if you tell us
same,
what
I
page
just
you're
got
on,
some
we
different-
can.
I think
kinda
you got a
follow
different
along.
Yeah, sure.
You got the same one we do then?
It looks similar.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, yeah, this is going to be.
That won't show up very good.
Just see if I can unplug it to this. Maybe it's something with that cord, because now I've got it pulled up here.
There-
If you have it on a flash drive, I could print it.
Yeah, I apologize. I'll be honest, I don't know if I've ever run into this issue before. Well, it's showing that it's presenting, so if there's any way to switch back over to that other feed. There we go.
I hate technology.
Yeah, I do as well. I'll continue on, and I'll have to apologize. I think, are you able to see my presentation from here?
No, we have a different,
It might be different than what you have.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then we'll just,
So if you want to use that, then I can put that overhead. You move that, I can put that right here.
sure, let me try this. I really do apologize for this. Yeah, let's put this overhead and we'll go from this way. So,
there you go.
is this good enough? Does this work?
Yeah,
That's close, yes.
Here, we'll plug that. Look at that, it's just like perfect.
Okay.
So this is what I was discussing. So a lot of the times in these projects, when put together, there's a lot of fees that are involved. Garland does not participate in additional fees. Our philosophy is that if you are going to do a roofing project, it is best to put that money, that the public money, back into better products, services. As Andy was describing from the architect, most of the information that's needed to do this job already exists. And I was able to gather that just from looking at the drawings, from understanding what the deck is, the installation, and the roofing system that would be involved. So additional fees that they would be sending out, and it may not even include, would be inspections and oversight of that contractor. Contractors are great for these roofing projects, and they're necessary. And we have very good contractors that we work with. Contractors leave the project, though, once it's completed, and they don't necessarily have a ton of skin in the game to ensure that it's done right. In a facility like this, where you have inmates inside and you have police officers and a lot of technology, you could make a pretty strong case that roof leaks really aren't acceptable. And a roof leak should be seen as a failure of that roof system. Our goal is to make a system that is not going to ever leak. And we do that by having superior products, superior design, superior details, and oversight of a contractor. The contractor should be seen as someone who's providing, oh, that's a light in there. Someone who's providing just labor and really is there to assist with on-site stuff, but they're not the end-all be-all. If there's an issue with this roofing system when it's being installed, you should have someone who is intimately knows the design, such as myself, to be there to verify information that's required. This is a good, and I apologize, I'm way off the game here with going through my presentation, but this is a really nice way of showing this slide is who Garland is to the owner, to the county. Garland is an employee-owned company. So we're very, very conscious of projects that we work on and if there are issues with them. Our goals for any project align with the county's. The county wants to have good oversight, good labor, good materials on that job. We provide those exact same things to ensure that we don't have a project that's going to fail. So I'm going to skip right over to the photo report since our time's limited and we've had all sorts of delays here. So this is just an overview of your roof right now. What the Justice Center has is what's called a single-ply ballasted EPDM roof. Andy's told me a lot of information about this and that specifically this roof was designed for certain wind speeds in uplift. Because you're in a very low-lying area of the state, it was very important that they had that coverage. Hence why there's pavers on a lot of this roof. Well, the issue that I first saw when I got up onto this roof was that, and that's the membrane that's on there currently. It's just a sample of what it would feel like. So is pavers over time with the water that's been sitting on top of it or any type of long-term weathering, they're beginning to erode and they're actually not serving their purpose of keeping this system down. You know, these pavers are designed as 2x2s to be able to hold down that system. If they crack and they're spalling out, they're actually doing two things, which is not holding the roof down and they're actually damaging it. The rock can be split apart and it can damage that membrane, leading to holes. There's actually two factors on this, two pieces on this roof photo. First is a hole, which is an immediate leak into your system with this type of roof. And then you'll see in the bottom, there's a lot of moss that's growing. The reason moss is growing on this roof is there's a lot of water that's being held onto it underneath these pavers. The roof actually doesn't have that bad of drainage. I can show you, I'll show at the end, why that exists, but the system itself holds onto that water, allowing for plant growth on top of it, which penetrates through the membrane and is most likely leading to a lot of the leaks. And unfortunately, leaks on this type of roof system are very difficult to find. This is more of the images of the moss that's growing on there. So this is something obviously you want to avoid with your roof. There's also a very difficult time draining this roof. Drain placement's not bad, it's just that there's pavers around it and it wasn't thought through on how the actual water would move through that because it can't move through the pavers, it has to go underneath it. It gets captured underneath there. Day like this, if you got moisture going through there where it was warm last week and now it's cold, you could have water that's freezing in there, breaking up those pavers. So then some of the other factors that went along with this, which is really important, is the architect and the contractor on this system may have had some there was a lack of communication. So this is what we call, it's a coping cap that's on top of the roof. And a lot of the times, you can see that this is sealed off with, here, this is sealant that's adhering these two pieces of metal. The sealant's starting to break down. This is going to lead to a roofing issue. It's possible that the architect never intended for that to be the case, and then the contractor did that on their own. With a lack of oversight, that's something that could be done. This is also evident in the detail. So I actually gathered this from the drawings that are at the Justice Center. The architect intended for a gravel stop to be used on this roof when it was first built. If you're looking at this, and I use my finger, you'll see that this is at a 45 degree here for this gravel stop. This is what was actually used. So the contractor deviated from the drawings and installed what is called just a flat gravel stop. So the issue with this is it actually sits a little bit lower than the field of a roof. It's hardly noticeable, but it's enough to hold water on those edges. And more so, it's a deviation from what the architect originally intended to put on there. So it shows that there is changes that occur in that when the contract documents come out, if there's no oversight of that contractor. And I'm not quite sure, I don't want to say that I can go back 20 years in time and say why they did this, but the very obvious answer would be that it was cheaper to put this type of material down. Because what it does is it eliminates the need for an additional piece of coping cap on the edge metal that requires more money to do so. And that's one thing that contractors, when they get involved in this, they put a set bid price. They've got to make sure that they have enough overhead and enough bid room to make money on it. That's not something that I have to worry about. My job is to make sure it's a quality system. If the contractor who bids on this job doesn't meet the specs in the drawings, or if they do something wrong and they got to tear it all off, that is not the county's problem. It's my problem, the contractor's problem. They've got to redo it. We've done that numerous times to ensure that at the end of the day, the county is able to get the warranty that we set out. And if they can't achieve a warranty from me in Garland, they can't get paid. So there's a lot of incentive for doing it right the first time with these contractors when they're bidding on a job like this.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
You're talking about the warranty and stuff. A lot of times stuff like this won't happen until 20 years later it was done wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Your warranty goes how long?
So the warranty we're discussing right now in the system that would be used it's a 30-year no dollar limit warranty that we would put down with the ability to extend that 10 years at the end of that life. So with this system, we would be able to have coverage. You wouldn't have to put a new roof on this building until, if we did it this year, 2061. And that would be that's just under warranty. Many of our roofs last above and beyond that 40-year mark with normal maintenance going on. So you could make it to the 2065, 2066 marker with this roof system. Now, there's no telling what would happen after the warranty. I can't say it's for sure going to last, but 10 years would be that point. So, and when I say no dollar limit, that means, if you've got 15 years from now, if something catastrophic were to happen, there would not be, we wouldn't say, hey, here's the value of what it was in 2021. Best of luck to you. You've got to cover the rest. We cover the entire thing.
Okay, thank you.
Obviously, huge incentive for Garland to make sure that it's done right and we don't have to come back and replace it at the price in, we'll say, 2036. So, thank you.
Okay.
This is just another overall picture that I wanted to show that there's minimal penetrations. One of the beautiful things about this roof is there's not a lot on there. So we'll be able to keep our costs directly into working on the actual facility and the roof. We're not going to have a lot of times if we've got a lot of penetrations or electrical units, we've got to change those out. We've got to raise them up. For this roofing system, we do need to add insulation. Currently, it was up to code and for the 2001 when it was installed, 2000 when it was actually put in. We'll need to add insulation to get it up to current code and make sure that it's energy efficient. Something that we've factored into our number and that we've put in there. This is a current drawing showing the roof and what the intention was for the installation. What you're looking at here is it's a structurally sloped concrete deck, so making it very easy to work with. And I've verified all of the installation in here, so I know exactly what needs to occur for a scope of work at this point in time and what I've used to gather numbers for the budget that I'm presenting today. So this just goes to show that there's, the drawings that we incorporated, really, I was able to do this based on what an architect put together a design and scope, and then really at that point, I'm just providing oversight and helping with the, the contract documents. So I know I have limited time, and I'll, am I okay? How am I doing on?
You got about 20 minutes.
Oh, about 20 minutes? Oh, all right, great, never mind. I won't take up the full 20 minutes. I know everyone wants to, we're right before lunch. I've done this before where everyone's like, you don't have to take up every minute. The one thing I did want to show you is the single ply systems that is currently installed on here is, they're not necessarily bad roof systems. They're just not good for this type of application. When you're looking at a building that most government buildings, when new, are planned at this point, usually be around 100-year buildings. Often single ply systems are put onto those because they're the first thing when you're looking at cost on the project to say, well, let's go for the lower cost immediate option of doing a single ply system versus a multi-ply system. So it allows for more players to actually bid on it because they're easy to install. There's limited barriers for contractors to get in and actually bid on these types of jobs. Hence why there's a lot of contractors who go out of business because they get over their head or they start a new business and they continue doing these. So we ventured away from doing the commodity products of single ply systems into multi-ply systems. And a multi-ply system would be where you have alternating layers of, you got those? Yeah. Of what we call either a built-up roof or a modified roof. There's also a hybrid option, but that's it's a little bit different and maybe better for different applications. But the point is multi-ply systems are going to give you redundancy, and they're going to be more of a long-term solution. As we previously discussed, you're going to be in more of the 30 to 40-year range of a warranty and service with this type of system versus a single-ply system. Single-ply systems, while also carrying warranties, use them a lot more because they require repairs. And often there's points where the manufacturer or the contractor will say, that's a manufacturer issue, and the manufacturer will say that's a contractor issue. So then it's money out of the taxpayer's pocket to have a truck come out there and repair a hole or do some sort of work on that roof system. Far less common with a multi-ply system. So, and one thing I touch on here is they're very installer sensitive. I put that as a bullet point. Garland is moderately, we work with good contractors, and that's something that we really take pride in. Contractors understand the level of work and the level of system that Garland does. They understand what our standards are, and we have good contractors that we work with. So it's very important to us to not isolate a contractor and say, you're only labor, you're not part of this. We create a team atmosphere to make sure that we're working towards the same goals on creating a great roof, but understand that Garland is the end with authority on making sure it's done right. So this is with these systems, you are able to restore them. This is what I'm talking about basically at the 30-year mark. Once that initial warranty is over, we come back through, we do a maintenance on them. We're essentially, it's the equivalent of doing a chip sealing on these, chip sealing like a parking lot, where you would recoat that top roof. Okay. Probably 20% of the original value in a square foot. Price of replacement at that point, it's significantly cheaper than whatever 30 years from now replacement would be of any type of roof system. So this is just more of the options of these systems and how you're able to extend the life of them instead of saying, over 20 years, well, we got to get ready for a roof replacement. And this was actually studied by the Army Corps of Engineers. Now the pricing's a little off on the far left system, but this came out in 1994. Where they did a study and they looked at this and they said the best options for roofing when putting these together, when putting a roof system on, is the multi-ply, what's called a modified built-up roof. And I apologize for, let me see if I don't know if I can zoom in on this. Long story short, they looked at the initial price of a single-ply system versus the slightly higher price of a built-up roof. or modified built-up roof, and determined over time, and studies and again showed this, that it'll save money when putting those together, when spending that initial money on the front end for a better system versus waiting another 20 years to do a full replacement. At the current rate, based on science and kind of the data, there is suggestions that we're going to see probably about a 3% increase in price on a year over year on roofing with, well, we did see that with tariffs imposed and how just the marketplace is ongoing for this. So 20 years from now, you'd be seeing a significant increase in price for any type of roof system. So I'll close out, and I want an opportunity for you to ask any questions about our system, and I can talk a little bit more about how we actually go through with it. But what we strive for is a longer life and less maintenance, and making sure that a roof is done well the first time for the county. And we're very, very mindful of the taxpayer money and how important that is for this entity to protect that and make sure you're making a good investment in the county. And so we want to make sure that we're going to lower the annual cost of ownership for that system, putting it together by putting higher quality systems on there that are going to last longer. So some of the other services, we do inspect our roofs on an annual basis to make sure that everything is done right. There's no fee for that. The price that I'm presenting, or budget price that I'm presenting today, is a all-in number. Now, I know that we've talked about doing this over several years. We can change things and how we would approach it if there's different priorities. We're very fluid in being able to approach that. But yeah, we can adjust things as needed. So, and this is actually, no, I really am going to feel silly here for bringing out Meeker. I shouldn't have said anything about their snowplow drivers. I might get run off the road on the way home. This is the roof we actually, in September 2018, they had a very similar roof system here. An aging ballasted EPDM. This is on their family services building right in downtown Litchfield. We've done numerous projects for Litchfield Public Schools, almost all of their roofing systems. They actually own part of this building in downtown. So this is what it looked like in September 2018. And we did a modified built-up roof. We added metal paneling. They unfortunately, they left some of this paneling here, but we're going to change that later. But just evidence that there's, part of it is performance, which is the most important aspect of these roofs, but also aesthetics is something we keep in mind and want to strive to make sure we have good-looking buildings for the next 30, 40 years. So I'm going to skip through some of these. This is just shows some of the other roofing work that we have done, how we approach things, and what we do. So this is the information that I presented. So when Andy and I started talking, we said, hey, let's look at what are the roofs that probably need this the most, and what's the most economical way to do this. So we started looking at different ways, and things that I take into consideration is how does the job flow, because that'll change the way that we actually do projects and how expensive they are. If you've got different setups for different contractors, that'll increase the pricing. So we wanted to take that into consideration, but also how do we spread this out over a certain time, or else if we do it at once, what would be kind of the best option. So like I said, this is something I actually I put together based on the information I gathered from site. This is very similar to what any type of architect or consultant would do. The difference is there's been no charge to the county at this point, and wouldn't be ever for this type of work for design. And this is a scope of work based on I apologize, I've got it too zoomed in here.
I did it.
Oh, did you? Okay. Sorry. So I've got different project notes. I've got how we would do this. There's a lot of different details to this job. We're going to have to raise up some edges on it. There's probably some wall issues that need to be addressed while we're looking at this. And that's all something that I would bring in different contractors to look at if we need to get budget prices, and then present different options to the county on how that might best be addressed. Re-roof schedule. This is really what we came up with as a kind of best priority for proceeding if you were going to break this out over 3 years. The building B, which would be, I hope that's common nomenclature for the sure, law enforcement center, okay. So the red would be 2021 is what you'd be looking at for a priority. That'd be the biggest chunk probably right there, but really, like I said before, very open building. It would be pretty enticing for a lot of contractors to come down and work on this. So I think very good. We want to play that market and make sure that there are contractors who want to bid on this job at this point. So building B would be, buildings in blue would be for 2022, and then 2023 would be in yellow. Now, obviously, you could do this all in one big swoop and get it done with one contractor, or else you could do multiple contractors working on this in 1 year. So there are, sorry.
Didn't we figure on some cost savings by doing it all in one shot?
Yeah, so there would be significant cost savings by doing it in one shot. And yeah, so in being able to utilize different contractors too, by giving one lump sum price from a contractor to ensuring, doing different sections with different contractors, still under the Garland name and the Garland warranty, utilizing that and cherry picking different contracts for different sections. That is, I'm sometimes cautious about that because it can be very enticing for a contractor to say, yep, I'll do the whole thing for this amount. Well, unfortunately, Minnesota has a finite amount of time you can actually do a project. So we take into consideration, hey, can this contractor actually do this? Can they accomplish this in a certain amount of time, and which is basically from April to end of September. So that's something that I would check into and ensure for the county, where there's not a sign up with a contractor who may not have the actual resources to do something of that. And that's a discussion for down the road, but something that we're always taking into mind when putting together these projects. So I put together two budgets for this. One would be a higher performing system. The other would be a still good multi-ply system. It's more of a standard built-up roof, which just means it has a little bit not as higher performing materials, and there's still a good one. It's going to be a 25-year warranty. And then the step up from that would be a modified, which is going to be that more higher performing, longer lasting, stronger system that's really built for our environment here in Minnesota, which is it's able to withstand the freeze-thaw cycle, which is so killer to a lot of roofs, wind uplift, penetrations, not penetrations, but rain, sleet, hail. It's going to be able to withstand better against those types of elements is the word I was looking for. The elements that's going to come in Minnesota, where we've really got these harsh changes in weather. So that also comes with a longer lasting warranty, and that has the no dollar limit available to it. The built-up roof does not. So, and there is right here what I'm showing is just the cumulative of those three, if you did it over those years. These are budget prices. There's somewhat of a fluctuation in there, but I give a wide range on that. We put this together 12 months ago. So things have changed in the last year significantly, but I feel I've checked these numbers with contractors who are interested in the project and my scope of work and feel very good about them. Okay. So in where we go from here, if this was approved, so Garland becomes, there's no signing of contracts or anything of that nature. We don't force the county to sign on with us and say, if you don't do the project, it's not this. There's different options for procurement that we can go over with cooperative purchasing. That's available to the county. I'm doing one actually with Blue Earth County. We're about to do one with them. And so there's availability. It's a lot of time, money savings avenues that we could use to go to the public with this. We still advertise. There's nothing that's not out in the open. We follow bid laws. It's something we're very proud of, and we take a lot of pride in making sure that it's all done correctly and with conjunction with the county's needs and how they would approach a project like this. It's a little bit higher, better. I think you all have a copy of this, correct? Okay. So, and this is, sorry, I put this in here, this is more about that, how you'd use a cooperative purchasing agreement that's already been pre-bid out, how this worked with, it's a company called Omnia, is there's a contract, a bid that went out through this company for roofing services on the national level. It was competitively bid out. Garland was awarded that contract, so on the national level for any publicly funded entity, this can be used to purchase materials or purchase the project. Otherwise, if it's something where we just want to go straight to public, it's completely available to the county to do so, and we're happy to. So, in closing, and I appreciate your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions after this. What our main focus is to eliminate soft costs and provide long-term solutions for the county. We don't want to come in, do a project, and then you never hear from us again. We're very involved in the jobs that we do. Everyone else is going to leave that job, so you got to make sure that someone is going to be there to watch out for things in the future when it's 10, 20 years down the road. We are a 125-year-old company. I know a lot of times people say, well, are you going to be doing this job for 30 years? If I'm not doing it, someone else will be available. The three guys ahead of me have who've worked in this area, have about 70 years of combined experience in this area. So we're very loyal to customers and clients and who we work with.
Okay.
So with that, I'll put up our partial reference list. Numerous counties we worked with, a lot of your neighbors we've worked with, whether it be Litchfield Public Schools, Meeker County. We've worked with BOLD, Bold Public Schools, done quite a bit of work with them. Goodhue County, Olmsted County. So we'd be happy to put you in touch with any of these individuals if you were wanting to speak with them. And
I have conferred with other facility
Sure.
managers
Yep.
in other counties.
yeah, so
Some good things were said.
good. So at this point, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. And
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Emdek.
You mentioned, your last slide shows pretty well the differences between the two different levels of
this one?
roof, yep.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned in there was a significant cost savings. Did I miss that, or have we not covered what the cost savings would be if you did it in 1 year instead of a phase?
Oh, I'm sorry. You'd probably be looking, if you did it all at once, probably a 5%, 3 to 5% savings on that if you were to put it all together. It's hard to say with combining that, but there'd be significant across the board. You'd have a combination of isolating and locking in the pricing that is current for right now on materials and labor. As I said, we're seeing those go up about 3% on an annual basis. So realistically, you'd be seeing probably, we'll say 4.5% savings on this entire project, maybe 5%.
Proceed.
And a follow-up question, we're finding out throughout a lot of industries that there's a big lag in procuring materials. So
Sure.
Are you experiencing that in this industry?
We've not, no. So the Garland Company is, we're actually one of 17 companies, 18 inches companies under Garland Industries. We have reps we have a total of, I think, 150 reps throughout the United States, UK, and Canada. We have a vast supply chain and resources behind us to accomplish any of these types of jobs. We've never run into an issue where we would be coming short on any type of material or lag. And if we do, we have other backup resources to fulfill that. So in my experience, I've never had an issue where we ran out of material to complete a job. So yeah, good question. But yeah, we have, for the amount that we put out there, we are prepared on an annual basis, forecasting what we have to be able to complete these.
A couple questions, a question of Mr. Kleindahl as well. Going with a system and going with individual, going with your company and stuff, have we done things like this before without having it legally, without doing certain bids on this much money?
You can do that. As an architect, you can pick who you want. professional services.
Okay,
Andy and I have been working with Brian back and forth, kind of vetting them out. We did a Zoom. We've had several conversations back and forth. So we feel like we've really done our background on this because this is so different for us. But as Andy started the conversation this morning, this is so much bigger than what we've ever had to deal with. This roof is a massive roof. But I think the concept that's been laid out and the type of roof and what it could do for the future of this county, I think this would be a good project to do. As Commissioner Nissen was aware, when we did our capital improvement plan, we put all these projects, laid them out, and you come up with a plan. And this year was one of the plans that in 2022, we'd start this year roofing project. And so in that process, then I started looking at, okay, if this roofing project's gonna come up, and we're gonna, we either do it over time, or do we do it all at once, start having those conversations, what do you say? You know, if a contractor can come and stage everything and doesn't have to bring things back and forth and restaging, that takes a lot of time and money from their part. You can stage it in one step, the saving goes back to you or the taxpayers. So the plan is, I have an idea of a possible solution, how to fund this roof. This is our last year on the bonding for the law enforcement center. A one-time, what we cost for bonding, we could use those dollars and put it toward this project. It'd keep the budget levy at the same. There would be no going up and down. And so the taxpayers would have the same budget they have levy now that they would have without doing this roof, if we had to add it later on.
okay, at the end of today now with this, are you looking at for a motion to continue to look down the road with this,
To work with,
but not making a final decision?
not making this
Right,
final
okay,
decision.
because I was thinking there's a lot on our table.
Right.
Right.
We want to get permission to enter an agreement with this company.
Good. Commissioner Nissen?
You mentioned doing it all in 1 year. There are some issues, end of April to end of September. We've had maybe 5 years' worth of a lot of rain. That might be another risk that we're taking to do that. So I'm wondering if do you have the resources to find someone who can actually do this?
Yes. So, and just to give you kind of a scope and scale of the operation of what Garland does, we work with a lot of school districts, and it's not only multiple school districts, but multiple buildings. So it's something we factor in, and from here is what we would take into consideration is when is the best time to do this type of project. So what we look at is, okay, so, and again, this has been a very odd year. Typically in Minnesota, the roofing industry kind of falls along that summer when the schools are out, because schools are the biggest really purchaser of roofs in the entire state. Schools got out last year in March, and a lot of work was moved around. So a lot of work that was done last year was brought in, or sorry, that was going to be done this year was brought into last year, and a lot of work that was done last year was put off hold until next year with budgets. So there's still availability, quite a bit of availability this year to accomplish this project. And we do factor in rain days and weather and ensuring that that's done. The nice thing about this is you don't have school kids coming back to this building. If we need to go into the September, October months for this job, the Meeker County project was done actually through the beginning of November. We're able to do that without any type of delays from weather, which can also work to the benefit of the county. So we have the resources, we have contractors available who would probably want to do this later on in summer. And I think that would be beneficial to the county to do so, as we wouldn't be competing against the summer schedule with school districts now. So if I made a suggestion for this, I would say we do this in late summer, early fall, and that's where you're going to have more resources available.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief question of Larry. I assume that for those folks who don't know what cooperative purchasing is, that's something that's authorized to local units of government by state statute.
Correct. And it just, what it does is they basically have bidded out this process and so we get a better rate because it's a group of people that's already authorized this and so once it's purchased as a group, as a whole, all the units of government get a better deal.
So I'm not real clear. I'm a little confused too. So at this point, you're looking to move ahead and then we contract with them. So what is this contract costing?
There is no, it doesn't cost us a thing. It's agreement at this point. It will,
Yeah.
once we.
Why am I beyond today then?
Really, yeah, beyond today would be, if the budget was approved, then Garland would proceed with the documentation for it and actually assist the county with bidding the project.
Okay.
We would
And
then,
what budget are we approving?
So that's what the dollar amount is.
yeah,
Yeah, so we got several choices to make.
Right, and if you know, again, if you want to approve us today, just to continue to work with Garland, we'll come back with a price to do this. I don't want to keep working, having a conversation with a company that you don't want us to do it. If you want us to go with an architect firm, then it doesn't do us any good to continue to have conversations with Garland. And it wasting my time, Brian's time, and Angie's time. But, so what I'm saying, what I'm asking today only is this, is that you will continue to authorize Andy and I to work with Garland, so we can make sure we got everything right. We can, when we're ready to pull the trigger, we'll come back and say, are you ready to move forward on this project? And what project do you want?
Questions, comments? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I would move to authorize the administrator and staff to continue.
We got a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it, but I
Second
have
by
a question.
Commissioner Nissen. Did you have a question?
Just a quick one. We have a 3-year process here. Which one are we talking about?
But
I guess I would really prefer to go with a 1 year.
Okay.
Let's get her done. Instead of 3-4 years of disruption back in the law enforcement center. I think if we can get her done in 1 year, let's get the disruption with. And go
All right, that it brings up, is there a penalty if you don't get it done in a year? Because I know Mel can sit there, and we had County Road 5 up in my district, and the rain really, now we're working with mud and clay there, of course, but
yeah, so would there be a penalty to,
to the contractor? Or if he
well, we could
fails
write that
to-
in. If there was some sort of, in the specification, if we wanted to write that in, a penalty for not doing it, that absolutely can be done.
Yeah.
So it's obviously, there's issues with that as it can make it a little less enticing for that contractor.
So,
What, go ahead, I'm sorry.
are you done? Or-
Well, I was just going to say that we can be very fluid too with, so I just am starting a project where we put together with the contractors, we're bidding it out, saying, you have the option to start this between essentially March 31st, and it just needs to be completed by September 31st. This allows them the window, so if they have openings, they can bid it as they see fit, giving the county the best price.
Okay.
So if we put a termination date in that contract, they have to complete it by then. But we want to give them a wide enough window to work within so that we don't run into issues. If, say, we had a rainy June, they could shift things to July, and if they've got up their resources to do so, we work with the contractors to make sure they're doing that.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So if, the motion, just so I'm clear on this, so we're making a motion to proceed, but we'll be making those decisions real soon
Right.
of which options.
proceed with this type of contracting
Yep.
with this type of vendor versus going with an architect firm.
Yep, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to mention that at this point, if there is, if we decide on saying, hey, we think it's best to proceed with a 1 year or doing it all in 1 year, I can hone in budget pricing to get it a little bit closer. And that would be the next step from my perspective.
Right. Commissioner Emdek?
One of the questions I had as you're describing this, do you have your own construction firms that come and do this work, or do you have firms, say, around the region that you can put this work out to for bid, and then how does that reflect on the costs to the county if you get a good bid? I'm
Sure.
trying to understand
Yes.
who's going to actually be doing the work.
Right, and I apologize if I didn't do a good job with that. So how this works is Garland assists, it's our products that are going on. This is still publicly bid out. So we're assisting we would put together a system that is then bid on by contractors in the public arena. It's advertised. Contractors would come in and they would bid on the project of how they would do it. So where Garland's role is we act as not only the material manufacturer, but really an owner's rep to ensure that who that contractor is when they get on here, they don't take shortcuts or try to switch out different products or different edge details to save themselves money. So it is still bid out publicly. We do not own any of these entities. They're independent from us. There's no really interaction except the fact that they would be bidding on it.
Question, Mr. Kleindall. So we approved this now, but we have a very short time frame to make some decisions here because if we decide to do it all in 1 year. So you're going to be coming back to the
Yes.
board like the next meeting or the meeting after, or pretty soon anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you
Sure.
like, we're
But-
on the 23rd of,
Yeah, it's a matter of time. I'm a little concerned in making a commitment like this, but I understand what you're talking about funding it. But, with the unknowns, with COVID and federal
Right.
dollars and,
but we also wouldn't want to start this until our jail project, remodel project is completed and stuff. So
oh, we do, yeah.
they're staging process right now.
Okay.
So this is just the first step. We've had conversations. I want to make sure that that if we're going to start having them do some work, they know they have a commitment from us.
Okay.
That's
All right.
all we're doing today. And so this
Any-
is the first step because we didn't want to be doing stuff. All of a sudden we come to the board and you say, oh, no, we don't want that process. And so this is allow us to continue this process, to put it
Okay.
together.
Commissioner Deck.
Yeah, I think it's coming together for me. So you've given us a range of costs here, and I assume that range is because we don't know where bids would come in from the people that actually are on the roof doing the work. And it seems to me, as a supplier of material, you are also somewhat doubling as a quasi-architect.
So we're not an architect.
No, I use the word quasi
Yeah,
for a
so
reason.
Architecture firms, how an architect would go out to do this is they would go to a manufacturer and say, hey, I've got this type of detail. How would your product work directly with this? How could I use your material to do this? We are essentially saying that middleman of the architect is not necessary for a roofing project when you're working directly with the manufacturer. Architects are very important. They do different things, but when it comes to re-roofing, they're typically just going directly to a manufacturer or a consultant who's also referencing to a contractor or a manufacturer to do this work. So this is where it becomes the importance of what we do and why we're a little different, because we eliminate the soft costs, the paperwork costs of a roofing job. And you take the money that the county's allotting for it and putting it into a higher performing roofing system. Instead of saying, I want to allot 80% to materials and labor and 20% to the people who are designing it and gathering information from manufacturers. So that's how we're a little different than that. We're eliminating the amount of players involved in the project.
So, Mr. Chair,
Proceed.
I'm not asking the questions to question your credibility. I'm asking the questions because I have to work through how we, and perhaps it's a conversation when you're not here, but I have to work through the questions of how we satisfy the bid process.
I was
And the
wondering
cost.
about that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Still bid.
So you come to the board when you get the bids and open the bids here then, or what?
Yeah, so, yes, so once the budget's completed, we would, and sorry for interrupting, we would open, this would be publicly bid. We would still run through the newspaper, there would be a pre-bid there, and so we would have the contractors out to site, they would walk that, we would have documentation of what the roofing system would be, specifications that the county has adopted, and then it would be bid out. We'd do a fully public bid opening for those, read them off, just like any other project.
So we're contracting with you, but it's still going to be bid out, and you got this, do we really actually know what we're going to be paying you?
So there, and this is, yeah, maybe there's a little confusion there.
Yeah.
There's no contract with Garland. We don't charge, by eliminating the soft costs, we don't actually charge for our services. It's part of using our products. Because it's so critical to us having that oversight to our jobs and how we do things, it's just built into the services of using a Garland roof. And that's why so many people choose to work with us. They say we want a Garland system because it comes with the oversight of a Garland technical rep who's going to ensure that the contractor who won that publicly bid and awarded job is doing what they said they were going to do.
And Mr. Thorson, Mr. Kleindl, you are recommending this and supporting this?
Oh, I'm highly recommending.
Okay. All right.
So
Moving things
when
along, yeah.
When Andy first came to me, I was very skeptical. You know,
This is
it
a
just
little
sounded
bit,
like hiring a box store to come and do all your business. I
yeah.
don't mean to call you a box store, but you have all the
I'll take
supplies.
it today after being the language.
If I can get it, yeah, right.
So I had the whole same process, but I also wanted Andy bring this in front of you so we can at least have the conversation, because you guys said, you know, at the end of the day, I don't want you to go any further on this. Well, I don't want to keep going back and forth, and so I just want to make sure we have your permission to keep working on this.
So,
If I can add, there is, I understand, there's a lot of times when this first gets introduced, because it's a different model, skepticism. They say, well, you have to hire an architect or you have to hire a consultant. But you actually don't. That's completely up to the county to decide that. You can choose whoever you want to work with. And I liken it to, if you put together a new building and you said, hey, we're going to purchase a new air conditioning system, you specify what type of air conditioning system you want, because you want a high-performing system you're not going to have to repair. And there's top-line ones and there's ones that are not. You have that decision as a county and representatives of the taxpayers. So what you're doing here is, instead of building a new building and saying we want this type of air conditioner, you're not going through a general contractor. You're going out to the open marketplace, the public marketplace, and just saying, this is what we want. Now, there are opportunities in this system, and when we're bidding this out, for alternatives to be put in. We have no control. You can't say, whoa, you have to do this or that. If a contractor said they wanted to bid something different, they can on this job. It would then be up to the county to say, we want a Garland roof system because we want the services to go along with it. We don't want to end up in a situation where we're getting a different roof edge detail than was specified. We want the oversight. We want to ensure that this is going to perform over the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So again, I understand different model, different approach, but it's just a different way of doing things. And it's why we've been so successful in Minnesota and really around the United States, Canada, UK, just because we're slightly different in it, but it eliminates a lot of the costs and saves money.
exactly the same process you're talking about, Meeker County and
Yes.
other places.
Yes.
Can you just repeat the motion for me one more time, please? Or who can? I think we got to move on, make it,
Yeah, I think.
call the question.
You're asking permission to continue working with the Garland Company on the LEC roof.
Okay,
We're not hiring them to do the roof, we're hiring
Yes,
them
okay,
to continue
correct.
the process.
okay, I'm going to call the question. If there's no more discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you bet.
All right.
Okay, moving on. We are running out of time, but we have committee reports, and I'd just like to ask everybody, if you have something really important on your committee, share it, or take maybe a minute max. And you got a really long list, so I would think you could probably have, and then a lot of committees, you have more. But just as a guideline, anyway. I'd like to start with Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would only talk about, because I think Raleigh's going to talk about Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center briefly, but I'll just, we had Association of Minnesota Counties Board meeting last Friday. And you will be getting, Executive Director Julie Ring usually sends out a summary of the board meeting. And so I've asked her to send it out to all the District 6 people on the mailing list for their opportunity to read the summary. But two of the things that came up there is that I think are worth noting. One is the very earliest we will have any in-person meetings. So fall, legislative conference is already off because that comes up pretty quickly, actually. And we won't have time to get broad enough vaccinations done. And so the leadership program in April, and part of this had to do with having to make commitments to the venues. Leadership is usually done at Grandview, and we just couldn't commit to it. So that's been called. But our spring district meeting, which usually is in really late spring, in June, almost summer. And so that'll probably be it'll be our first opportunity. And if things don't go right, then even that one will be done by Zoom. The other thing that was of note in that meeting is how, with the recent attempt to disqualify the voting certification, some county commissioners around the state were receiving letters from legislators asking for resolutions to oppose it, similar to the Second Amendment letters that we were getting about a year ago from legislators asking county commissioners to do resolutions. And so they're watching that. They've got recommendations on behalf of counties should we want some.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
I was just on a couple of them. One was CCT, or the Community Transit one. And I guess for me, being a new guy, it was mostly a learning experience. I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot that was really, I mean, everything for me was new, so I'm not really sure if anything would be really much of an update. So
Okay.
all I know is that the ridership has gone way down, but then they do deliver meals to people, so that's gone way up. So
Okay. And I shared that same committee with you, and I had 3 committee meetings, PAC4, CCT, and what was the other one? Law Library. But that got postponed, the election. We're going to need a couple appointments from 2 other agencies to the committee, and then we're going to have election of officers. And the only big thing to pass on from that would be that Dave Moody is officially retiring as the chair, but he's going to serve the chair next meeting until we can elect some officers, and I'll pass it on to you.
All right, well, I had 6 meetings, but I'm going to really try to be brief. Prime West, of course, they're still looking at 2022 for the procurement, which is unfortunate, but it's going to be that way. And their meetings have a lot of detail. I'm not going to get into all of the detail, but they frankly go on and massive reports, and it takes a patient person to deal with all of that. Nothing out of the ordinary, though. Continues. Candioi County Historical Society, we added 2 new members. One is a familiar person to you guys. Harlan Matson is going to be on the board, and Emily Mikes, whose husband used to be a musician and active at the barn and so forth. There's a book available that a Sacred Places book. I'd kind of encourage you to take a look at that. They're selling them. It's got a picture of every church in the county and some history. So if you're into history, we did discuss snow removal, and we're looking for someone to bid who can do parking lot and sidewalks. However, we are looking at an alternative for sidewalks. Set the budget. Woodland Centers, the bottom line we're doing our bottom line through November is up over last year to date. However, that PPP money probably accounted for most of that. Developing a marketing plan to improve access, reduce stigmas, and increase awareness. So we hired a marketing person to maybe, try to find some money, grant money, this, that, and the other to help us with our mission. Chippewa River Watershed Project, and this is, I'm glad I'm on the Hawk Creek part now because they're now beginning to plan for one watershed, one plan as well. So I'll be working with a more, and I can talk to Roger too because he's already been through it one time. And that's really all we talked about at Chippewa River. Glacial Ridge Trail, we're looking to expand our group, so if anyone wants to sit in on our meetings, we're working with Parks and Trails to accomplish some of our objectives, which is to get more work done along the byway. Planting trees, we're looking for ideas as how we can improve the entire byway. And I was hoping Roger would take Prairie Woods Environmental Learning Center because he dodged that bullet. But we're working with Public Works to restore a wetland that got drained at the insistence of a neighbor who was accusing us of flooding his property. It's kind of we now know previous to this, we did not know what the actual legal elevation of that wetland was when it was established. Thanks to Corey Klebe and digging into and finding the paperwork that established that, we now know what the elevation is for that wetland, and we're going to restore it. The Public Works is going to help us with that, to restore it to the original elevation. I guess that was the most, that's probably the only thing that we really went at length and talked about at Prairie Woods last night.
Well, the only comment I have is obvious that the COVID has not slowed you down as a county commissioner.
No, I did, I worked, some meetings I did from my hospital bed.
Yeah,
So
Zoom is pretty handy.
I'm glad to be here.
We're glad you're here too. Commissioner Gardner.
Just had one meeting set in on Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. And we've got some additional training for myself lined up with the staff over the next couple of months, hoping to get together with former Commissioner Madsen and catch a little institutional knowledge there as well.
Yeah.
And as soon as we're done here, I'll be hopping on CVB board.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. And no more business. I hereby adjourn the county board meeting.